No, we're stuck. Baltic. Bare Bones Broadcasting. We're back. Evening broadcast. This is Skeleton Nation. I'm going to speak to you about events of this planet and humanity right now. I'm Jewish. It doesn't give me a greater prerogative to speak to this subject. I'm Jewish. It still doesn't give me a greater prerogative to speak to it because it's such an international issue at this point. And the God these people represent is an international God. It's not just their God. It's everybody's God. It's the God. The only God. It's not a Jewish God. Not a Hebrew God. It's everybody's God. God of creation. Nobody has the lock on what this God says. No one, no altar is sacred more than the other with this God. Know that. No one has rank here when it comes to the truth. No. Now then, Israel, as a piece of property, land rights and property rights, on an international scale, has always been something of precedence. Except to the guy that originally came up with the whole thing. It's a nickname given to a man who wrestled supposedly with an angel. Well, that already you know that did not happen. Man did not wrestle with an angel, get nicknamed Israel. No, didn't. Didn't happen. I don't care what the report says. There's no such thing as an angel that will wrestle with you and you'll get nicknamed. Sorry, that is not what happened. I know better. I just absolutely know better. How do I know? It didn't happen to me. I wrestled with a lot of things. Wasn't an angel. Invisible things. Wasn't an angel. Nicknamed me all kinds of things. Didn't wrestle with an angel. Neither did he. Especially to come to the point that he came to. That's not angel wrestling brings that. Development or maturity. You can't nickname maturities like that if they do. This might have to be a two-part explanation because I can see it's going to get lengthy. It comes before stars and planets. I'm here to deliver it. Now then, property rights because of precedent. The original guy, Abraham, was not excited about property rights. He had this promise. Only the promise was that his seed would inherit more than inherit property rights. The man was very interested in generosity. He understood its proclivities very much, and he was an extremely generous man. He was isolated in his heart from the cruelty of where he left. So he left, because his heart was isolated. And he talked to his God, and his God said, leave, and he did. And he had a promise that his seed would bless. He was a generous man. And he wanted that option, to spread the philosophy of it and let it happen. It wasn't about property. When he went there to this place, he got along with the people because of his generosity. He really didn't have a lot of faith in God. There was Egypt was dominant at the time, and called his wife his sister, so Pharaoh wouldn't get him and so on. He didn't have a lot of faith in God. And Pharaoh chewed his rear end out for his absence of faith too. Big time. To get Pharaoh in trouble. Pharaoh knew about his God, the God. Pharaoh knew about that God. Big time. And enough to respect it, I'll tell you this much. When those people got in trouble with the famine, Pharaoh said, come to my house. Because of Joseph's loyalty to this God. To bring a message of wisdom. Wisdom. Foresaw. Pharaoh had enough wisdom to foresee the famine. It's spreading all over the world. Not just the promised land. The whole place was engulfed with it. Because of Joseph and Pharaoh and generosity and priority with it and mutual considerations with it, people were not going to starve to death. When you eat green and you cultivate, I wonder if you shouldn't. You sit around in a territory, you're not intended to do that. That's the problem, when you fool around with property. Well, let's get back to Israel. To the day, especially when Moses comes flying out of Egypt, they figure they got precedence if they squat there. And internationally, they can set up territory and have border. And that's what this whole thing is right now. They keep on expanding the borders to some kind of old idea or something. I'm not sure what in God's name. Well, they don't get along with their neighbors because they keep on expanding their borders by driving the locals out. And I say they, most of them come from Europe, not even native. When I say native, they weren't born and raised there, that want to move into these neighborhoods and fight with people, cause trouble. Well, I'll tell you, the main issue is setting up precedent with property ownership, and it's baloney. And, you know, the biggest warlock about it is that the tribal people that live there for longer than they'll ever have property rights in any way, shape, or form, migrating and meandering and trade routes and so, have to move through there. And once you have property rights, you can tax them as they pass through. The trade routes, of course, now they've been so screwed up, God knows. Originally, it was a bunch of old trade routes. Taxed. Dumb. The taxed trade routes. Isn't it? This nation's illegal. You ain't allowed to have interstate commerce. Taxing of trade routes. You think they cheat that one? You think they tax interstate commerce here in the United States? See? I'll be back. This is Norman Stuxponi, Bare Bones Broadcasting. We'll finish this explanation on Israel and why, when you're liked everywhere and you're a part of everybody's society, do you need property rights? Why? Does anybody else? And you're saying that your God gives that to you, the God of everybody, but nobody else really has these rights except you. Your God has selected you to have proper rights. Doesn't select anybody else to have them, just you. And it's everybody's God. I'm back.